your assets in the organization, your users, your digital assets, your devices, OT, IT, right? Because there's so much proliferation of OT devices getting connected to the internet these days.
That's for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Can you protect it at scale? Yes. Right? From not just human attackers, but also generative AI-based attacks.
Krish, thank you so much for being here, today and welcome. So, I want to ask you to kind of explain a little bit about kind of what you do over at Zscaler, but before you do that, a little bit about your career journey. Kind of we were just talking about we both kind of lived in Boston for a little bit,
Right.
and now you're on the West Coast. But so if you can give me a little bit of background around kind of your career and the choices that you made that kind of brought you here.
Of course. So I, like most people in tech, I started as a techie. So I wrote code for about a few years and then moved towards product marketing. So I've been in product marketing for over 20 plus years now.
Yeah.
Working with various mid and small sized organizations. Most recently, I've been at Zscaler.
Yeah.
So close to 4 years now. And I run a part of the product marketing organization there.
Awesome.
For the takeoff team specifically.
Yeah, well, Zscaler's been kind of a rocket ship, in the industry over the last 5 years or so. So, good choice, and obviously you guys are doing great work, there also. And product marketing is a hard job. It is really hard. It's I think, frankly, in our industry, on the vendor side of things, marketing professionals are the most challenging ones to find that are really good. So you must be good. You've been there for a while.
Well, I've survived.
So which products do you focus on?
So one thing Zscaler is very committed to is to expand our presence in the market, which means go after untapped addressable market. So we've been really successful on two fronts, specifically around securing users and their applications. And over time, we have expanded that into digital experience monitoring, which is what I did for the first couple of years while I was there.
Yeah.
And over the last year, a little bit over a year, I've been focused on our expansion into how we can extend zero trust, which is what Zscaler is all about, into branch locations and clouds as well. So that's been my jam, if you will, for the last year.
Yeah, well, it's a good jam because zero trust is a big deal. We've been kind of communicating and talking about this in the industry for over a decade or so, and it's really only the last couple of years that we're actually starting to have solutions that work to deliver zero trust, and we need more. It's as we move into this new agentic era, all these agents need to be they need to be sources of truth. They need to be trusted. They need to be authenticated. They need to be basically put into kind of that ecosystem of trust that is, that most corporations have around their digital assets. So have you, I know you're kind of now looking at kind of expanding zero trust into kind of outside of campuses and into the branch offices. But what about into other kinds of digital assets? Have you, are you focused on that?
Absolutely. So what really helps Zscaler is that if you break it down to first principles, right, it secures all communications between any two entities. And the approach is really simple if you think about it, right? Zscaler and the Zscaler Zero Trust Exchange being a part of it acts like a switchboard. So anytime any entity is trying to communicate or get access to another, it first checks for its identity. Are you who you say you are? It then checks for posture. Are you acting suspicious? It checks to see if you actually are authorized to get access to that particular asset or the destination. And then finally, it applies policy. You break it down to something that's simple, it really can be applied across any sort of digital asset, right? So as a result, because of the architectural uniqueness of Zscaler, it is able to hide the entire attack surface that has existed and plagued the firewall-based approach using these zero trust principles. So if the attackers can't find you, they can't attack you. And
that's always a good thing.
Exactly, right? And in the scenario that there was something that did happen, it prevents any sort of lateral threat movement as well. So, which is again a flaw of existing SD-WAN based architectures, right? Because once you get access to the network, you can roam free, have a blast, grab any sort of asset you like, exfiltrate it, or hold it to ransom.
Yeah.
All of that is prevented by this unique approach that we have at Zscaler with Zero Trust.
Yeah.
As a result, when you think about agentic AI, which is what you just mentioned, same principle, right? Can you protect your assets in the organization, your users, your digital assets, your devices, OT, IT, right? Because there's so much proliferation of OT devices getting connected to the internet these days.
That's for sure.
Right?
Yeah.
Can you protect it at scale? Yes. Right? From not just human attackers, but also generative AI-based attacks. Can you ensure that any sort of Gen AI or Copilot that you use in the organization doesn't misuse your information or exfiltrate it? Yes, because we inspect all the data that's going out as well as coming in.
Yeah.
So it really positions Zscaler well to help our customers with this wave of AI adoption.
Yeah, well, what's really good about that is that you're kind of really focusing on flows, of communications within the infrastructure and not particular devices, and so having a construct, for whenever there is a channel or communication or flow that's being established, then you're checking kind of identity, you're checking policy to see if those flows are authorized and that they can actually take place. And if not, kind of block them, from happening. Just like in the old firewall day. Well, we still all have firewalls, it's like, but I haven't thought of firewalls in a really long time, but essentially it was
I'm glad to hear that.
yeah, it's like, but it's essentially the same kind of thing. We were just kind of like blocking access, but we had flows that were very predictable. They all came up into a data center, and so you can actually have those protections there. Now we have so many different centers of gravity for data, and traffic patterns are so different, and they're only going to get more unpredictable and more kind of chaotic, as we move further and further into this AI era that we're currently in. So I think having solutions, like the exchange, makes a lot of sense because, it's not just one area that you're protecting. You really kind of have to protect this entire fabric that's being produced and that's being made, these days. And so that when you have any kind of data flow that's going across that fabric, zero trust needs to be injected into that, which is kind of interesting because there's a lot of now talk about the way that we've done networking for the last 30 years, where we have source destination routes, like maybe we use BGP, and so we have stateful routing, and we're always looking at the next hop. It takes to reconfigure or converge on a new configuration of BGP, it could be 60, 90, 180 seconds or so, and that's really, really long in today's metrics. So the thinking is, do we move? And there are companies working on this, a stateless way in which we facilitate and orchestrate the movement of data, so that you can, so that this fabric can adapt and reconfigure to lots of different unpredictable traffic patterns and prioritize those flows, based upon a wide range of metrics. And those range of metrics could be zero trust. It could be the security posture. It could be latency. It could be kind of the dollar cost of that link. It could be the bandwidth available, on that link. It could be just a wide range of metrics that the fabric is making these decisions upon, and doing them in millisecond time frame though.
Yeah.
So it's got to work this really quick. So I think with you guys having your product as part of the fabric, puts you in a good place for that. If that architecture starts to really take hold, which you would think that it is, it's going to have to.
It is. In fact, I'm glad you brought the conversation there, because that's exactly what we're doing on the branch and campus and factory side of things, where there's this whole notion of coffee shop networking that's catching the attention of the community, right? Where previously, when you had these sort of multi-location organizations, you'd extend your corporate network. you'd have MPLS. Then SD-WAN came along to help with internet breakouts and decomplexify, or rather simplify the communications by abstracting the complexity of routing tables and such, right? But as we discussed earlier, the challenge with that is security, right? Is once you're reachable, you're breachable. And when you're breachable, you move laterally across your entire organization, cherry pick all the interesting assets, and then exfiltrate, right? So the Zscaler approach here is to fully embrace the notion of cafe-like branches, aka coffee shop networking, and then apply zero trust principles upon that, right? So the eventual benefit of that is you no longer extend your network to the branches. Your branches are simply not discoverable. They go invisible because it's all based on zero trust, right? There's no attack surface. And then everything in the branch is segmented, right? Especially because of all these OT devices coming online. Every device, legacy OT or the avant-garde OT device, is segmented into networks of one. So there's absolutely no scenario where lateral threat movement can happen, right? So the operational benefits of all of this is you're decomplexifying. You no longer have complex routing tables to have to manage for communications between branches, between warehouses, or wherever else. You no longer have to pay for expensive MPLS lines because you can use the internet as your backbone, broadband basically, to connect your sites together. And thirdly, it's all about the simplicity of living in. It's a very pragmatic approach, living in the new world as well as the old, right? So not every device can, or every communication or every scenario rely on a very agnostic, connection, right? It's got to have some hop visibility, some source IP visibility. So the Zscaler approach is to sort of support both ends of the spectrum, where you've got newer workloads and newer scenarios where that doesn't matter, but in some cases where you need source IP visibility as a factor of authentication to support that as well. So our customers are very excited about it, and we just rolled out. Actually, I shouldn't be sharing that yet, but I will. You will hear about it soon.
Hold that thought.
Yes.
Yeah. All right. Awesome. Well, I think this has been great. It's really great to get to know you a little bit.
Likewise.
and also like learn a little bit more about how kind of the zero trust exchange is kind of both moving out into like the branch, facility area, kind of the coffee shop, environments that you're talking about. But also, like, to me, it's saying, like, what I've kind of learned from this, our short little chat is, I can even just see, like, the exchange being part of an MCP flow, where it's like it's another tool. It's going to be delivering zero trust, to a wide range of kind of AI applications and agents. And so it kind of just brings, kind of zero trust, or one way to kind of bring zero trust into like that whole kind of agentic, world that we're all building these days.
We have some really interesting announcements to make on that front at a conference that's happening.
That's like next week.
Actually.
Yeah, it's next week. Yeah, actually, I was talking to Phil T. So Phil is like runs your AI. He's head of AI.
Yeah.
Actually, he was just speaking right now. He might still be on stage. But yeah, no, actually, I'm going to plug in for that demo that he's going to do. It
awesome.
Actually sounds. And actually, it is all around this topic that we just talked about. So anyway, and what's the date on that? Is that like June 2nd or something like that?
Next week.
Yeah.
We start next Tuesday.
Yeah, so next Tuesday.
Yeah.
Okay, great. Yeah. So if this gets published beforehand, everyone plug into that. So that's in Las Vegas too.
In
right?
Las Vegas,
Yeah.
and then 2 weeks later in Prague.
Oh, in Prague.
So for all our friends in Europe and the rest of the world.
Yeah. Awesome. Great. Krish, thank you so very much.
Thank you.
Really, such a pleasure.
Likewise. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.